From the City of Angels off the Pacific Ocean, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm George Norrie. Welcome to Coast to Coast AM. Split show for you tonight. Later, Mark Dice joins us on Big Brother, the Orwellian Nightmare. But here's what's happening. One of the reactors at Japan's crippled nuclear power plant has been damaged more severely than originally thought, a serious setback for efforts to stabilize the radiation-leaking complex. Repairs to monitoring equipment revealed the new data, which also showed that the water level in the core of Unit 1 at the Fukushima plant is much lower than previously thought, leaving the portion of the fuel rods still intact, fully exposed. Mount Etna erupted for the second time this year, spewing molten hot lava and clouds of ash into the air. The lava flowed luckily only reached uninhabited areas, though the nearby town was forced to close its airport after it became covered in ash. This is not the first time the Sicilian volcano has erupted this year. Before its January 13th, 2011 eruption, Etna hadn't experienced major volcanic movements since 1992. A Vatican-appointed panel of scientists has reported what some climate change experts believe, and they've been warning for years, that the Earth is getting warmer. Glaciers are melting, and urgent measures are necessary to stem the damage. The scientists called for urgent reduction of carbon dioxide emissions and reductions in methane and other pollutants that warm the air, and for improved observation of mountain glaciers to better track their changes. Mitch Batras is with us. He, of course, heads up the website earthchangesmedia.com. You're a little upset about this story, Mitch, aren't you?
That's right, George. My faith is Catholicism. I was raised Catholic, kind of veered away like so many of us do, and have kind of come back, although I have a more holistic view. So I do take this very personal because I feel when I looked at the panel, the words are so tricky. When I looked at the release that went to the Associated Press and to everybody, it's not the Vatican. It's an appointed panel by the Vatican. So it's not directly related to anybody at the Vatican. And when you look even closer than that, it clearly says Cardinal Lombardi, who is kind of the spokesman for the Pope, clearly says, quote, this document is not a piece of the Church's key teachings. That the conclusions are come by, quote, independent scientists. So I looked at the scientists. Well, who is this panel?
Yeah, who are these people?
Well, guess what, George? No surprise. It is the exact panel, the same characters that come from the IPCC. In other words, James Hansen is there, Al Gore is behind this, Paul Crutzen, Michael Mann, the whole global warming cabal. And that's what's upset me, is that however they have done it, they have manipulated. And I really think it was kind of a trickster thing with the Vatican that they manipulated.
Well, you won't deny, Mitch, that the planet's going through some kind of change. What you say, though, it's a cycle.
Oh, absolutely. Let me clear that up. You're absolutely right, George. There is such a thing as pollution, and that we do produce it, and I don't know anybody that is pro-pollution. I'm as much of a ecologist as many people. So it's not about a clean planet. I totally support that. The trick here is that the ones who got stumped the most are the true environmentalists. They have originally thought that the global warming thing was their cause to clean up the world, and then they flipped it on them. It has very little to do with natural man-made pollutions. It has to do with cyclical events. And so when any of the publications, what they make it look like is that somehow our warming and cooling trends are directly related to this global warming. They have even created a new word. This just came out initially in 2000, finally accepted this year in 2011. The new word, just like global warming was created, it was made up by James Hansen, 1977. He just made up the name global warming. The new name, just produced this year, is called Anthropocene.
What the heck does that mean?
Anthropology, so it's Anthropocene. So anthro means new or history of, and scene means geography. So basically what the definition, a person named Paul Kreutz, who's part of that cabal, made up the name, and his definition, and we're all supposed to accept it, is man-made pollution is the cause of global warming, global cooling, increased earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, and every natural disaster one can think of. So there's the irony. We're talking about natural disasters, and they, again, in a very tricky way, want to fold it in that it's somehow man-made.
The fact that the Vatican appointed the panel to make this statement, this report, what does that tell you?
I don't know what to make of. This is what I think is going to happen, George. It's probably no surprise that it came out late in the week. I think by Monday we're going to see one heck of a backlash. People are just waking up to this. And once it catches fire, I think everything's going down, and I'm really glad that that's happened. In this same report, in this independent report that was produced to the Vatican, I can't emphasize that enough, it's a non-Vatican scientist that we're talking about. In the same report, they one of the major causes they claim is causing global warming, is dark soot, dark soot. In other words, just like Etna, was it Etna that erupted?
Yeah, Mount Etna.
In this article, and guess who the article is produced by? It's a document, not an article, a document produced by NASA itself. Clearly says that dark soot, or soot, causes cooling, and they went further in this document to say that an example of dark soot is what comes from a volcano.
Well, Mitch, you just go chill out now, because I know you're upset about this report that came out of the Vatican when they brought in some independent researchers. We both know that this planet goes through incredible Earth-changing cycles, and we're in a big one right now. It's not to say that man's not polluting. Believe me, we are. But we're not changing the temperature of the planet. It was happening anyway. It's happened before. It's happened hundreds of thousands of years ago, millions of years ago. I don't think we had plants and cars and things then. Of course, then maybe we did. Mitch, thanks. 74-year-old actress Mary Tyler Moore will undergo brain surgery to remove a benign tumor. Moore is best known for her role as the 1960s housewife of comedian Dick Van Dyke in The Dick Van Dyke Show, and, of course, the great working woman in the Mary Tyler Moore Show in the 1970s, coming in, doing things that really set the planet on its heels. She's been a great actress and a superb person. Let's hope everything works out with her. Two couples in China held their weddings in a cemetery to publicly declare that they would be together until the end of time. All four are workers at the cemetery. They exchanged their vows among the gravestones. Their wedding procession was made out of 26 cemetery carts. That's where they carry caskets, which were specially decorated for the occasion. Well, Friday, it's Friday the 13th, and that occurs when the 13th day of a month obviously falls on a Friday, which superstition holds to be a day of bad luck. And in the Gregorian calendar, this day occurs at least once, but at most 3 times a year. But there's a phobia connected with this day. Why? Up next, Carol Lieberman joins us on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie. Dr. Carol Lieberman received her psychiatric residency training at NYU in Bellevue, a member of the clinical faculty at UCLA's Neuropsychiatric Institute, and Dr. Lieberman has a master's degree as well in public health from the University of California in Los Angeles. Carol, sounds like you go to school a lot.
Yes.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
We met at a conference, didn't we?
Well, we were both at the same conference, yes, the Conscious Life Expo, giving talks.
That's right, absolutely, as we were crossing paths and everything. You've got a book out, we'll talk a little bit about that later on, called Bad Girls, Why Men Love Them and How Good Girls Can Learn. But Friday the 13th, you're also an expert on phobias and why people do what they do. Why is this day so ominous? Why do people just cringe when they hear this day?
Well, first of all phobias that relate to superstitions are a way of us dealing with uncertainty. So we make up these stories, we ascribe meanings to things over the years, over the centuries. Certain events happen on certain days, and historically it gets passed down that this becomes a lucky day or an unlucky day or an unlucky or lucky thing to do, just like walking under a ladder, for example. But the fear of Friday the 13th is called, the fear of saying this, frigatrisca-decaphobia.
One more time.
Yes, frigatrisca-decaphobia.
The fear of Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Frigatrisca.
Friga meaning Friday, Trisca meaning 3, Deca 10, so 3 and 10, 13, and then phobia. And it really is a serious, it's, we kind of laugh about it to alleviate anxiety, but it really is something that does cause people to change at least the way that they think during the day, which then can have other effects. It's estimated that at least 21 million people in the United States are affected by Trisca so-and-so, Friga Trisca, and that it makes them change their routine. It makes them decide not to drive or not to take a plane or not to go to work or to do other things to protect themselves. And it comes from the combination of two other superstitions. One is the number 12, the number 13, where 12 is considered the number of completeness. So anything extra to 12, 12 months of the year, 12 hours of the clock, 12 tribes of Israel, and so on. So 13 makes it irregular. It makes it, it's jarring. And then Friday also has been considered an unlucky day.
I love Fridays.
I know, yes. It's like in some ways, it's the end of the work week, we celebrate Friday, but in some cultures, including ours, there has been an association with Friday with things like the stock market crash, Black Friday. It's been considered an unlucky day to take journeys or begin new projects. And, it's interesting because like in coaching seminars and so on, they'll tell you not to contact somebody to propose a new project on a Friday, not so much because of superstition, but they're talking about, how it's the end of the week and people are winding down and this isn't a great time to suggest a whole big new project.
Well, you're right about that because I will, for example, and I've always done this, Carol, I will stack the deck with meetings and things I have to do Monday through